Folks, after some very careful analysis and very thorough research, involving various opinion leaders, experts, etc., etc., I have come up with a bombshell of a conclusion. Wait for it. The finance bill has been passed by Parliament, but it is doomed. In other words, the finance bill has passed, yes, but its implementation, the finance bill working in Kenya and generating revenue for the government of Kenya, hiyo itakuwa ngumu, tena ngumu sana. Now I know you're as shocked as I was when I came to this realization, but it all makes perfect sense. I am going to tell you why. There are several reasons, okay? But before I do that, please stick with me till the tail end of this video, because I want to tell you a super fascinating story about how certain people behave, when their candidate comes into power. How to tell immediately that huyu amekula pesa ya umma. How to tell immediately. And there is the example from 2002 towards December of that year. A very powerful minister in the Kibaki cabinet, just a handful of weeks before the general elections, was running around being chased by auctioneers. But even more fascinating, was hawking, you heard me right, believe it or not, he was hawking medical supplies in chemists in Mombasa. And this is a very well-known Kenyan. Today is a billionaire, although I don't think he'll take it kindly to anybody doing a story from hawker of medical equipment and supplies to billionaire. He will not want such a story, but I will give you that story. So stick with me, we'll come to that. Right. Bila kizungu mingi, bila beating about the bush, I will list the reasons why the Finance Bill 2023 will be very, very difficult to implement. Reason number one, a handful of powerful workers' unions are doing press-ups and sit-ups and preparing themselves for industrial action, boycotts, strikes, downing their tools, bringing several industries to a standstill, including, wait for this one, government. One of the unions, very serious about going on strike, has its members as civil servants. Now anybody who knows Kenya, even a little, will tell you, Chris ajui anasema nini, kwa sababu pesa inatembea, hata saa akiongea. What do they mean? Union leaders are notorious in the country called Kenya for receiving bribes to look the other way, for being compromised so as to fail to defend their members who elected them into those positions as they should. That is true. However, this time round, the politics in those unions does not allow it. Let me explain. If it was a very little issue, an issue even most of the members, most of the workers do not understand, then taking a bribe to twist things here and there would have been easy. But the Finance Bill 2023 is different. Everybody is talking about it. Everybody knows about it. And therefore, these union leaders, if they want to remain union leaders, if they want to be elected in the next elections, they will have to forego the usual envelope, the usual incentive to look the other way. And as I came in to make this recording, I was able to gather various pieces of evidence that this is exactly what is happening, and that a handful of unions, very powerful workers' unions in the country, are preparing themselves to down their tools. And in all likelihood, they will all do so at around the same time. Can you picture the impact of that? Reason number 2 why Finance Bill 2023 is already running into very stormy waters is court action. Now, maybe you've heard of only one particular case filed by Azimio. Yeah. The truth is, there are multiple cases in court, yeah, quoting various sections of the Constitution, giving various solid reasons as to why the Finance Bill 2023 should be a non-starter. Reason number 3, put simply, maandamano, mass action, yeah, and boycotts. Now, if you live in the country called Kenya, and especially Nairobi, you are very much aware of the mood on the ground. Because if you stick to social media and the comments of UDA bloggers, you might get a very different picture of the reality. Let me just put it very simply this way. Baba akiitisha maandamano kesho, that maandamano will have a problem. And it is not the problem of people not turning up. It is definitely not the problem of not having enough people. It is the problem of having way too many people. Okay? Now I know Azimio are holding a rally tomorrow at the Kumekucha grounds where they're going to discuss these issues. But the truth is, the mood on the ground is that Kenyans are getting impatient with Azimio and Raila Odinga. The feeling of most Kenyans is that they're too slow. They're not moving fast enough. So that should give you a very clear picture, yeah, of what the real mood is on the ground and what Kenyans are about to do to stop their suffering, at least to reduce their current suffering. The train of political divide, political parties, or Raila Simpendi, that train left the station a long time ago. And what is on the ground now is the entire Republic of Kenya Wananchi against the UDA government. That is really what it is. So conclude for yourself what the numbers look like. Hey, ish. Bottom line, to sum it up, if the finance bill manages to weather the storm of the courts, court action, etc., etc., they will have workers' unions waiting for them. And if they somehow manage to deal with workers' unions, peana pesa hapa, peana pesa pale, confuse hapa, tisha hapa, threaten here, etc., etc., if they manage to get out of that one, wiggle out of that one by some miracle, then there'll be something else called maandamano, waiting for them, just waiting. Okay? Now, it's even worse for them, because I've said waiting. What is most likely going to happen is that all this three-pronged attack against the Finance Bill 2023 will hit the ground running, sprinting, almost at the same time. Hey. So I leave you to conclude for yourself whether what I said at the beginning of the show today, yeah, was just hype, Kumekucha Kshs exaggerating, or if what I said was close to the reality. That the chances of the Finance Bill 2023 working and government collecting revenue is unlikely. Okay? But there's something else. I spoke to a tax expert, an insider, somebody who was working deep inside the KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority. And they gave me some mind-blowing information. And I'm very grateful to you, sir. Yeah, they're a member on this forum, very active. This is the information they gave me. When the Mwai Kibaki regime came into power in early 2003, tax collection at the Kenya Revenue Authority shot up dramatically, very dramatically. And although targets for the taxman had not been made public before, the truth is, the performance of the KRA during Kibaki's first term, especially very early during that first term, broke all records. It grew in leaps and bounds. Now, the fascinating thing that happened here is that during Kibaki's second term, after the clashes, tax collection dropped very dramatically. Okay? Now, what does this tell us? It tells us very clearly, and it gave me many other examples, many other regimes, which tell us the same thing, which is tax compliance and collection has a lot to do with the legitimacy of a government. You see, what happened in 2002 is that Kenyans went to the polls and they voted, and nobody interfered with the results. Nobody hid the real results in servers somewhere. Nobody fiddled with those results. They came out as is, and Kibaki was elected, and Kenyans were very happy, and Kenyans had a legitimate government, which everybody knew. We elected this government, we the people. Hii ni serikali yetu. All the voters knew that. Even the voters who voted the other side for Uhuru Kenyatta at that time, they knew in their heart that this was a genuinely elected, legitimate government. And therefore, what was happening is that people were calling the KRA, "Hey, Mr. Taxman, I owe you X shillings, I think. Can you confirm and let me know? I want to pay." You know, one thing many Kenyans don't see, including the UDA decision makers who came up with this finance bill and decided to use Kifua to push it through, they didn't see this, is the fact that collecting tax is an emotional issue. Yes, it is the law, but it is very emotional. Because it is your money, it is people's money, hard-earned money, that you have to give up to the government by law, as the law states, but it is still emotional. And this is why many of you will not believe this, but I know a few people who have moved out of the country, not because their business will not work, not because they don't have a way of making things work within the borders of the country called Kenya, but simply because they cannot bear paying taxes to this illegitimate government, and therefore they have chosen to relocate to a foreign country. That's the truth. You know, today I'm going to tell you a secret that I've told very few people. One of the lectures I used to hate most from my late political lecturer was a lecture he was very fond of giving about shortcuts in life. Shortcuts. I was very young at the time. I was in a hurry, and therefore I saw no problem with shortcuts. If you can find a shortcut, si umetumia akili yako, you have used your brains, and you found a shorter route to where you want to go. But according to my political lecturer, in this life, there are absolutely no shortcuts. And when you take shortcuts, you will never ever escape dire consequences. Now, when I was young, I used to believe that was just rubbish, not true. Well, look at what has happened in Kenya today. A presidential candidate decided to take a shortcut to the presidency. They didn't have a vast majority of the votes. Instead, they used a computer. They used Venezuelans. Pop, 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 pop. duly elected. Okay? The Supreme Court says yes, mambo kwisha maneno. You are the president. You have taken a shortcut and it has worked. You're president, you didn't get majority votes, but you took a shortcut. You're the president legally. According to the Kenyan Constitution, this is the president of Kenya. Now look at the consequences. It is like the Kenyan who wants a job at a very technical company, dealing in computers, for instance, or servers, for instance. And the only experience is everywhere I've worked, there have been servers in the office. I've always been around servers. I have experience. And therefore they go to Gill House in Nairobi and they print fake papers and they present them and they bribe the right people in the selection panel and voila, they have the job. CEO of this company, they took a shortcut. Sasa do mambo itaumana kumana. A technical problem occurs at this company involving two servers. One is within the country and one is outside the country. And this CEO calls in his experts to ask them what he's going to do. And three of them have completely different opinions. He doesn't understand any of the opinions. It is all Greek to him, technical stuff. He is not qualified. The papers he had are fake. He took a shortcut. And therefore, how is he going to make his decision? Because they're all looking at him to make the decision. I think you'll have no option but to do. Pinky, pinky, ponky. Father had a donkey. Blah, 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 blah. Pinky, pinky, ponky. And granted, in that situation, his chances of succeeding are roughly 33%. He has 1 in 3 chances of making the right decision. And so maybe he might survive that one. But there will be another crisis tomorrow. You get what I mean? That man cannot survive in that job. He is not qualified. He took a shortcut. My friends, my political lecturer was right all along. Shortcuts have very dire consequences. Now on to what I promised you earlier on. Chris Murungaru was a powerful cabinet minister in the Kibaki government. And just before the elections, he was spotted by several multiple eyewitnesses, sweating profusely, moving from chemist to chemist in Mombasa, hawking medical supplies and madawa. Utachukua Panadols ngapi? Na mara moja utachukua ngapi? Hapana, uchukua box 2 ya Panadol na box 1 ya mara moja. Nitakupatia discount hapa. This was a move of desperation because the man was hiding from auctioneers who were chasing him all over the place and paid bills, etc., etc. But just a handful of months into the Kibaki regime, things were more than okay for Bwana Chris Murungaru. Indeed, he was already a multi-billionaire. But you know shortcuts. Bwana Chris Murungaru's career in government ended very shamefully. It started with the British government declaring him person non grata in the UK. That means he was not allowed ever to enter into the United Kingdom. He would never in his life get a visa to travel to the United Kingdom. Now, why would the UK take such a drastic action against a powerful cabinet minister in the Kibaki regime? Well, the British government never gave us the real answer. And it is sensitive. And I can't tell you here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send out that information to all members of my weekly intelligence briefings. I will send you the official position, which was hidden from Kenyans, that blocked Bwana Chris Murungaru to this day from entering the United Kingdom. Okay? If you already know the reason, that's okay. If you don't, and you're not a member of my WIB, you can see details on your screens right now. But even if you know the reasons behind Chris Murungaru's being banned from the UK, I would still highly recommend my WIBs. For instance, WIB number 110 is out. Moto kuliko pasi ya makaa. It is the Museveni story. Na ile homa ya mchina. Very crazy stuff. Okay? As well as all the other WIB's highly sensitive videos. You're going to get them pop, as well as this latest information I've promised you. So please take action if you're not yet a member. If you're a member, this info is hitting your inboxes shortly. But there's another huge advantage of becoming a WIB subscriber just now, or renewing your subscription using our latest offer. Because I have this double offer ongoing, where you'll also receive my very valuable How to Survive and Prosper in a Dead Economy, like what we're facing right now. Now I realized something which I'm going to share with you, which was more than a little surprising for me. You see, this set of videos on how to prosper in a dead economy don't apply only to business people and people who intend to start businesses. No! Even if you're working for a company, you have a secure job, whatever position you hold, I'm sure you realize that you keeping your job, keeping that payslip coming every month, is not going to be easy going where we're going. Many people are going to be laid off. Many people are going to lose their jobs. So how do you keep your job? Put yourself in the shoes of the employer. The employer will only keep his most valuable employees, his most valuable assets, to see the company through the hard times. So how do these videos help? Let me explain. You see, in a depression during economic hard times, it's not that there's zero money in the economy. No. Money is still flowing in the economy. Money is still going somewhere in the economy. But the only thing that has happened is that that money has changed its usual route. Let's just simplify it so that we all understand. For example, if that money was following Moy Avenue and then on to Ronald Gala Street before, now that money is taking chorochoros. Yeah, it is going to Ngara, taking so many blind turns here and there, and then ending up somewhere close to Ronald Gala Street. So if you're waiting as usual somewhere at Kencom, you're timing it to pass Moy Avenue so that you rush to the road and collect the money as you usually do. You will wait and wait, it will not come. That's really what's happening. Let me give you a real life example of what is unfolding in Kenya right now. Oh yes, right now as we speak. Have you been to a supermarket recently? The crowds have reduced dramatically. Now my analysis of this is that vitu kwa ground zimechange. You see, before, the thinking before of the Kenyan shopper was, I go to a supermarket because it's convenient, I save time. I buy everything under one roof. It doesn't matter if item 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 56 are a bit more expensive than I would get it in my local duka. It doesn't really matter. The convenience and me saving time ensures that I go to the supermarket without even thinking about it. But now that we're where we are now, pesa imekuwa ngumu. Yeah, money has become tight. The same Kenyans are opting to do price shopping. They're looking at prices very carefully. And so many of these Kenyans have realized that many items in the supermarket are more costly than what it would cost in the local duka. Others are cheaper. So what are they doing? They're buying all these other items in the duka which are cheaper, rushing to the supermarket to buy 1 or 2 items which they already know are cheaper. Yeah? And so the traffic has changed. The route money is using has changed. Shoppers are very price conscious. Now, if for instance you're working for that supermarket, this is very valuable information. because it will enable you to take the right decisions to ensure that the business generated by a supermarket does not dwindle to that place where you'll be out of a job. And of course, the only way to deal with very price conscious shoppers is to deal with the prices, lower them. After all, supermarkets have very high margins, in case you didn't know. So it is viable for them to dramatically reduce their margins, yeah, and go for very low prices and make their money with the volumes. For example, 100 people were buying this item before, yeah, and my margin was high. I reduced my margin and now I have 2,000 customers pop, because everybody is coming in because of my price. Nobody can beat it. Something like that. And there are many other very practical things, tips, examples, ideas that you can get from my sets of videos. This is an investment definitely worth it, and an investment you will never, ever regret. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.